He humiliated me with words that were supposed to motivate me. His friends laughed, his mother scorned, and I kept silent. They all wanted me to lose weight to become a worthy bride. And I did it. But not for him. Not for them. I lost weight to get rid of the people who made me hate myself. And when he finally saw me beautiful, confident, happy, I just smiled and said, "Thank you for the motivation, Tyler. But I have a different fiancé now. My name is Melanie, and a year ago, I was the happiest woman in the world." At least, that's what I thought. When Tyler proposed to me right in the middle of the street, against the backdrop of festive lights and an applauding crowd, I cried tears of joy. He was down on one knee, holding the ring box, and said, "I want you to be my wife. Forever." Back then, I believed he saw in me not just a woman, but his person. I didn't care that I wasn't perfect, not a glossy magazine model. I was myself, with warmth, sincerity, and an open heart. And I thought that was enough. The first weeks after the engagement were a fairy tale. We planned the wedding, laughed, joked about the future. But then, something changed. Not abruptly, but gradually. Small comments, minor jokes that at first seemed harmless. One evening, when I came to him in my favorite dress, the one he once called perfect, he looked at me and said, "You know, sweetheart, maybe a little less mac and cheese before bed? I want you to look incredible at the wedding." He said it with a smile, as if joking, but I felt cold. His words stuck in my head like a needle. After that, the jokes became a habit. When we met up with his friends, I heard them snickering. "Tyler, don't forget you need to order 2 cakes, one for the guests and one for the bride." Everyone laughed. Even him. I sat nearby, pretending to smile too, but something was breaking inside. These weren't just jokes. It was devaluing me. He never stood up for me. On the contrary, he even said once, "Don't be offended, Mel, they're just kidding. But maybe you really should work on yourself a bit? I just want everyone at the wedding to say what a beautiful bride I have." I swallowed my tears. He didn't understand. I already wanted to look good. But not for strangers' eyes. Not so that someone would evaluate whether I was worthy of being his wife. That evening, I stared at my reflection in the mirror for a long time. And I saw not the flaws he highlighted, but a woman who simply wanted love sincere, without conditions. But as it turned out, Tyler's love had its own standards. And from that moment on, I started hearing this phrase constantly, "Mel, you have to lose weight before the wedding." A few weeks after the engagement, Tyler invited me to dinner at his parents' house. I was nervous. I wanted to make a good impression. I bought a new dress, carefully chose earrings, and even got my hair done at a salon. I truly wanted his mother to see her son was in love with a woman worthy of him. When we arrived, she greeted me with a cold gaze. There was no warmth in her smile, only politeness. I tried to keep the conversation going all evening, but I felt her assessing me. Her gaze swept from my shoulders to my waist, from my face to my hands. And then it happened. We were sitting at the table. Wine, laughter, a light atmosphere, and suddenly his mother, Mrs. Henderson, put down her glass and said, "Melanie, dear, don't take this the wrong way, but have you thought about losing a little weight before the wedding? You know how cruelly relatives can joke. We don't want anyone to say anything, right? And the wedding dress should be a normal size." Everyone fell silent. I felt the warmth drain from my face. Even the air seemed to thicken. I wanted to run away, to disappear. I felt my heart pounding in my chest and my hands trembling. Tyler was sitting next to me. I searched his eyes for support, protection, anything, but he just smiled. "Mom, don't exaggerate, she's wonderful. But yeah, maybe a little exercise wouldn't hurt, would it, honey? Wouldn't it, honey?" Those words sounded like a knife in the back. And everyone laughed. I did too, mechanically, because I didn't know how else to survive that moment. When we were driving home, I was silent. Tyler held my hand as if nothing had happened. And then, already in the car, he said, "You're not offended, Mel? Mom just wants us to look perfect. She's right, you have put on a little weight lately." I looked out the window at the reflection of my face. It looked empty. I didn't sleep that night. I stood in front of the mirror in my underwear, examining myself alive, real, vulnerable. And for the first time in a long time, I felt disgusted, but not because of my body. Because I allowed someone to make me less than I am. The next morning, I went for a run. Not because he or his mother wanted it, but because I knew if I remained the Melanie who could be humiliated, I would simply break. A few days passed after that dinner with his mother, but I still felt her words like scars on my skin. And when Tyler said his friends wanted a small get-together to celebrate the engagement, I barely smiled. I didn't want to go, but he insisted, "Mel, it's just one evening. Don't be so sensitive. They love you." Love me? I had a chance to see exactly how they loved me that very evening. We met at a bar they often frequented, loud music, lights, beer, joking shouts. When we entered, everyone immediately stood up, applauded Tyler, and yelled, "Oh, our lucky guy is here with his future wife." I smiled awkwardly. But then one of them, Derek, winked and added, "Just tell me, Tyle, have you already ordered the wedding cake? Because it seems like it needs to be multi-tiered." Laughter. Crude, sincere, undisguised. Someone clapped him on the shoulder. Another added, "Come on, Derek, don't exaggerate. She'll probably only eat half herself." I felt as if I'd been doused in ice water. I stood there, squeezing my purse strap, trying not to flinch. I waited for Tyler to stop them. To say something, to stand by me, to show that I was not a laughing matter. He took a sip of beer and laughed along with them. "Guys, don't go overboard. She's on a diet now." And that was it. Everyone burst into laughter again. My diet became a joke. My body, an anecdote. I tried to hold on, even joked back, but something inside me finally broke. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out. But I stayed. Because I didn't want to look like a hysterical woman. Because I still believed that maybe he just didn't understand how much pain he was causing me. When the evening ended, I went outside while he paid the bill. The fresh air hit my face, and I suddenly realized I was crying. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, restrainedly. My tears dripped onto my hands, and I felt ashamed even of that. When Tyler approached, he lifted my face by the chin and said with a smile that was killing me, "Well, don't exaggerate. You know the guys just like to joke. If you want, I'll tell them not to touch the topic of weight." I looked at him, and for the first time I thought, did he ever protect me at all? Did he ever see me as a person and not a project that needed to be improved? That night, when we returned home, I stood in front of the mirror and saw not myself, but the reflection of a woman being slowly broken by words, smiles, and jokes. And I promised myself this would be the last time anyone laughed at me. I didn't know then that one day they would see me again and wouldn't recognize me. But at that moment, it was just a quiet vow in the darkness. After that party, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror for several days. Every piece of their laughter echoed in my head. She'll probably only eat half the cake herself. On a diet now, haha. I would come home from work, take off my shoes, and just sit in the dark. I was torn between anger and shame. I didn't know who I hated more, them or myself, for allowing them to laugh. One morning, I woke up with a feeling as if everything inside me had burned away. I opened the closet, took out the sneakers I had bought once and never worn, and just left. Without a plan, without energy, without strength. Just to escape. The first days were hell. I couldn't run for a few minutes. My heart was pounding, my breath was ragged, my body ached. But my soul ached even more. I ran because I didn't want to become beautiful, I wanted revenge. I wanted Tyler to regret it. I wanted everyone who laughed to choke on envy. I ran and imagined how one day I would walk into a party and they would simply fall silent. How he would see me and be unable to utter a single word. Back then, I didn't love myself. I just hated them enough to keep moving. And that was enough to start. A few weeks later, I joined a gym. The first day was humiliating. Skinny, fit girls nearby, me red-faced, out of breath, hair stuck to my face. I almost cried right there by the treadmill. But the trainer, Lindsay, a woman in her 30s, approached, smiled, and said softly, "You think I don't remember how I started? The main thing is don't stop. Not for them. For yourself. I nodded, but inside I thought, no, not for myself. For him. To make him regret it. Every day I came with the same thought. I pushed myself to the limit. I sweated, gasped for breath, sometimes nearly threw up after a workout, but I didn't stop. And every time I wanted to give up, I remembered how they laughed. How his mother looked at me, gripping her wine glass. How he sat nearby and didn't even try to stop them. A strength was born in me then. Not a gentle, not a soft one, a wild, furious, wounded strength of a woman who was humiliated but not broken. And step by step, I turned that pain into a fire. Months passed, and the changes were not instant. They were like scars that grew into a pattern of strength. My body slowly responded to the effort. Muscles became firmer, my face brighter, my gaze sharper. But something else was far more important. I learned to say no, first to myself, then to others. I no longer cried at the first criticism. I stood in the room and looked at myself in the mirror, and instead of tears, I saw a plan. A plan for a life I would build not for anyone else, but for myself. I learned to love morning runs not just as punishment, but as proof that I could walk through the pain and emerge better. Lindsay and the workouts became my sacred rituals. I came to the gym broken and left, put back together. Tyler noticed the changes, of course. At first, his comments were dry compliments, as if he was grading me on a job well done. I guess you've made progress. You look more intense. But with each day, his attention dwindled. He didn't ask how my day went. Instead, he often mumbled about meetings, football with friends, and new plans. We began to live side by side, but not together. His life was next to mine. Mine was entirely within me. This was the turning point. When your ex becomes an outsider watching your own life. He saw the results of my work, but didn't see the price I paid. And this indifference swallowed me even deeper, not because of the lack of compliments, but because of his apathy. In the evenings, I sometimes saw him catching glances from other girls, and it no longer caused jealousy, only clarity. I realized that my path was not to prove to anyone that I was worthy. My path was to become worthy for myself. And when I started to feel this, the world began to play differently. People who couldn't handle the truth turned away. Those who valued sincerity came into my life. I was no longer the Melanie who smiled when she was insulted. I was Melanie who knew her worth and wouldn't let it be negotiated. That evening, I came home early. Tyler had said he'd be working late, but his car was already parked outside. I walked in quietly, without taking off my sneakers, and heard laughter. Not his, a woman's, light, confident, too familiar. The sound came from the living room, from the phone he had left on the sofa. A message was flashing on the screen. Qley Fit Life. Look at these results. Can you imagine how cool your fiancé will look if she trains with me? My heart sank. I picked up the phone and saw the messages. Satni messages. Satni smiles, emojis, discussions about training programs, and me. My fiancé is finally losing weight, but she's nowhere near you. You inspire me, Qley. She tries, but not like you. You have real discipline. You look like a dream. Mel just tries, but you know, it's not the same. Not the same. These two words hit me like slaps to the face. I stood in the middle of the room with the phone in my hands and felt something inside me, the part that was still alive and trusting, die. He didn't just cheat on me physically. He betrayed me with his words, comparisons, and humiliation. Qley became for him what I was never supposed to be, the motivation, the embodiment of a dream, the ideal. And the worst part, he used me to fuel her self-admiration. Every one of his previous compliments to me was fake. He was just shaping me into the image of another woman. I put the phone back. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and looked out the window. There, in the glass reflection, I saw for the first time not a broken, not an offended woman, but a calm one. Silent, firm, and dangerous in her resolve. Hey, Mel, you look hot today. Must finally be feeling the motivation, huh? I smiled. Oh, believe me, Tyler. I feel it like never before. He didn't even notice how it sounded. And I already knew this was the end. Not a dramatic, not a loud one. A cold, precise end, like a knife cutting the rope that had tied me to his world. The next morning, I packed my bags. At dawn, I stood by the window, my suitcase at my feet, and a feeling as if my skin had been peeled off, but underneath was something new, stronger. Tyler was sleeping in bed, carefree, with the same smile of a self-absorbed man who thinks the world revolves around him. I looked at him for a long time, not with love, not with hatred, but with complete calmness. Because where a feeling once burned, only ash remained now. Wedding dress catalogs, bought months ago, lay on the kitchen counter. I remembered how his mother had said, "Melanie, the main thing is that the dress doesn't emphasize your problem areas." I smiled bitterly, but sincerely. Problem areas? It turned out the main problem was them. I left a note on the pillow. "You wanted me to lose weight." And I did it. I got rid of the excess, including you. Then I went to the drawer where the ring box was. I picked it up, twirled it in my hands. It once shone like a promise of the future. Now, like a cheap prop from a play I had finally stopped acting in. I placed it on top of the note. Without any theatrics, without a dramatic moment. Just a period. Then I called the wedding agency. My voice was steady. "The wedding is canceled." "Yes, permanently." "No, the reasons are personal. No need to return the deposit." I left the house and inhaled the fresh air. The sky was still gray with no hint of sun. But I didn't care. Because after a long darkness, I wasn't afraid of the morning for the first time. I walked down the street in a sports jacket, a backpack on my shoulders, and felt not abandoned, not lost, but free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying the burden of being enough for someone. That same day, I unfollowed all his friends on social media, blocked his mother. And even when the phone started vibrating, first with the message, "What does this mean?" Then, "Mel, let's talk," and then, "You're making a mistake," I just muted the sound. I didn't need to hear a single word. Because finally, I heard myself. 6 months passed. 6 months without Tyler, without his mocking friends, without his mother's poisonous advice. 6 months without pain, without humiliation, without the fear of being not enough. But most importantly, 6 months with me. I didn't just lose weight. I grew out of that life, like an old piece of clothing. My body became strong, my movements confident, my gaze calm and deep. What was once pain became strength. And for the first time, I felt that everything I went through was necessary for me to be reborn. I stayed at the gym where I started. But now I no longer stood timidly by the mirror. I helped other women who came there with broken hearts and uncertainty. I became for them what Lindsay once was for me, a person who believes in you when you can't believe in yourself. It was there, in that same gym, that I met Ethan. He came for the first time with the same anxious smile I once had. He said he wanted to lose weight because he was tired of being a backdrop for other people's photos. I laughed, sincerely, genuinely. "You're not a backdrop, Ethan. You just haven't seen what you look like in the light yet." He was awkward and shy at first, but with each passing day, we started talking more. After workouts, we drank smoothies, shared music, jokes, and stories. We understood each other without words, two people who were once broken, now helping each other rebuild. And over time, something real grew between us. Without masks, without humiliation, without demands. Ethan never told me who I should be, he just looked at me as if I already was the best version of myself. One day, we participated in a charity fitness run together. I ran beside him, laughed when he was out of breath, and felt I was alive, truly alive. And then, one evening, I accidentally ran into Tyler. I was leaving the gym, hair in a ponytail, face without makeup, wearing workout clothes, nothing special. And yet, when he saw me, his gaze froze. As if the Melanie he once laughed at was not standing before him, but a woman he had lost forever. "Mel, God, you look incredible. I didn't even recognize you." I smiled. "No wonder. You never truly saw me." He tried to continue. "I made a mistake. I missed you. You've become completely different." I want to get everything back." And then Ethan walked up next to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and asked, "Everything all right, honey?" Tyler went pale. He saw me for the first time through the eyes of a person who didn't own me, but valued me. And at that moment, I realized that I no longer needed revenge. Life itself had already delivered it. "Thank you, Tyler," I said calmly. "You were right back then. I needed to change. But not for you. For myself. And you know, it was the best transformation of my life." I took Ethan's hand and we walked away. Without dramatic scenes, without pain, without the past. When we reached the parking lot, Ethan smiled. "Your ex looked like he saw a ghost." I laughed, for the first time without a shadow of sadness. Maybe he did. Because the Melanie he remembers died a long time ago. And this one is just beginning to live.